In 1999, a large amount of crimes like these were committed in East Timor. Many people died, many people were injured, many villages were burnt and the inhabitants forced to move from their homes. Many people are responsible for these crimes. In June 2000, the Office of the Deputy General Prosecutor was established in order to bring those who committed those crimes to justice. In East Timor, this office is known as the Serious Crimes Unit. The Serious Crimes Unit is looking into crimes committed during the Indonesian occupation and has authority to investigate and prosecute war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity whenever they happened in East Timor. The unit also investigates crimes of murder, sexual offences and torture committed between January and October of 1999. The unit has been focusing on the widespread violence that occurred in 1999. Many of those crimes are regarded as crimes against humanity because they were carried out against civilians in a widespread or systematic manner. The work of the Serious Crimes Unit is to investigate people on both sides who are said to have committed these crimes, and then, if there is enough evidence, to prosecute those individuals in the Dili District Court.
The process of justice will take some time. We need to be patient. The people of East Timor need to trust that the Serious Crimes Unit is working for them, albeit slowly and with limited resources. Your cooperation and information is essential to the pursuit of justice.
The investigation process is the first step in bringing people to justice. The Serious Crimes Unit has approximately 40 international investigators. United Nations investigators work together with some civilian police officers, or CIVPOL, who have been specifically assigned to the Serious Crimes Unit. These investigators have different responsibilities from the CIVPOL and East Timor Police Service, who are stationed in the districts. The CIVPOL and East Timorese officers stationed in the districts work on all the offences committed since October 1999. Sometimes the district police officers will help the serious crimes investigators with their work. An investigation is the search for truth in the interests of justice, in accordance with the specifications of the law.
This means that we investigators go out to the district, especially on all the villages that throughout the whole East Timor, to look for witnesses, record their statement, and gather whatever evidence that we can get from these witnesses and victims.
In some cases, witnesses come on their own initiative to the Serious Crimes Unit to offer information on crimes they had witnessed, or the investigators will locate them. An interview is conducted in private. Interpreters are available if required. Once the witness is located, the investigator will ask them questions about what they experienced or saw and write down exactly what he or she said. The statements and physical evidence help the investigator determine who is responsible for a crime.
It's important the statement is taken from a witness who was actually there. It's not a rumour or second or third hand information. It's from a witness who was there during the incident.
Investigators travel throughout East Timor speaking to witnesses and collecting evidence. Many times this involves travel over rugged terrain to reach villages. When areas are inaccessible by road or heavy rains have isolated villages, support is sometimes provided by the peacekeeping force. Interviewing a witness can often be a long process for several reasons. Firstly, because most of the international investigators work with interpreters because of the many languages and dialects used all over East Timor. Secondly, it can also be stressful for a witness to recall in detail the traumatic events of a crime they witnessed more than 2 years ago. And the investigator may have to ask many questions to get sufficient detail even when the witness may think these questions are obvious. When the interview is finished, the statement is read back to the witness to make sure it is correct. The witness then signs the statement.
This is a good point. Many different organizations come here to conduct investigations for their own information. They make reports, but there's no change, no result. The Serious Crimes Unit comes and investigates them again. At the moment, I go into the field to encourage, support and explain to them that the Serious Crimes Unit is the only place that is set up to give them justice. It is not good for my East Timorese female friends to be interviewed again and again when there is no result. That is why I go into the field with the Serious Crimes Unit investigators, so I can inform the victims to prepare themselves to be ready to receive the Serious Crimes Unit investigators.
Witnesses have often told their story many times before to journalists or non-governmental organisations. While these interviews are important, only the signed statement taken by a serious crimes investigator can be used in a court of law. Criminal trials around the world are time-consuming. Sometimes the trial can take longer than expected because it is important judges have enough time to hear all the witnesses and the evidence. There are 2 panels of 3 judges each that are authorised to hear serious crimes cases in the Dili District Court, and each case takes many days and sometimes months. In order for an individual to be arrested for a crime, there must be evidence that a crime was actually committed and that he or she is probably responsible for that crime. An individual is responsible for a crime if he or she physically, actually commits the crime. For example, if a man murders someone. An individual can also be responsible if he or she aids or assists in the crime. For example, if they go with a group of people and help the group kill somebody. An individual can be responsible for a crime if they ordered a crime, or if they were ordered to commit a crime. For example, if a militia leader tells a lower-ranked militia to kill someone, then the militia leader may be held responsible for that crime, and so can the lower-ranked militia. Finally, under certain circumstances, a leader or superior can be responsible for crimes committed by his subordinates. For example, a militia leader may be responsible for crimes committed by members of his group.
Most of our evidence consists of witness statements and victim statements. We put these together and give them to the prosecutor. The prosecutor then reviews them, and if they feel that there's enough evidence, then they apply for a warrant. If a warrant is issued by the judge, then we make the arrest.
When enough evidence against an individual has been gathered, a prosecutor can then request an arrest warrant for that individual. A Timorese investigating judge reviews the prosecutor's request and issues the arrest warrant. CIVPOL and the East Timorese police officers can then officially arrest somebody. The individual must be brought before the investigating judge within 72 hours. During the hearing, the investigating judge reviews the legality of the arrest and determines whether the individual must remain in custody pending the outcome of his case. Usually, the Serious Crimes Unit will ask the judge to release an individual until his trial date, as long as conditions can be made so that he will not flee or interfere with witnesses. For all these reasons, it is essential that witnesses come forward with any information about these crimes. One significant part of the Serious Crimes Unit's work is the investigation and prosecution of sexual offences. Many women find it hard to talk to a man about being assaulted, so the Serious Crimes Unit has a special team of female investigators.
We do understand that it's very difficult for victims of any kind of sexual assault to come forward and speak to the investigators. But we are well trained and we try to be as sensitive as possible while taking a very detailed interview. But this interview is necessary to make sure that the case can be prosecuted and that the victim sees justice.
The Serious Crimes Unit works with non-governmental organisations and the community to encourage women to come forward to report the crimes that were committed against them. Interviews are conducted in a private and sensitive manner. This team is specially trained to be sensitive to the needs of a witness who has suffered a sexual crime.
I think I would ask the people of East Timor, especially the East Timorese who were victims of the 1999 violence, should not be ashamed to tell their story to the Serious Crimes Unit investigators. I would inform them not to be angry when the Serious Crimes Unit investigators want to get information from them. They should give all the information the investigators require so that we can get what we are supposed to, justice. The Serious Crimes Unit is the only institution that can bring us justice for the suffering we experienced during the violence of 1999.
First of all, I have a letter.
Prosecutors work closely with investigators to prepare criminal cases against individuals and present the cases to judges in court.
As prosecutors, our job is to be in charge on the investigation and to review the evidence. Our task is to decide whether or not we have enough evidence to be convinced that the person has committed the crime and that we can prove that in a court.
Prosecutors and case managers work closely with investigators throughout the case to evaluate any evidence collected. Many times, after reviewing the evidence, further investigation is needed. For example, an exhumation may be needed so that an autopsy can be performed. An autopsy is a medical examination performed by a doctor. It can help to determine the cause of death. For example, an autopsy may provide the proof that someone was shot and killed. A prosecutor must obtain a warrant from the court in order to make an exhumation and autopsy.
As far as I know, the aim of the autopsy is to discover the evidence determining the exact cause of death. We need to know if the person was shot or stabbed or how they died. When we have the evidence from the autopsy, serious crimes can use it in court to assist in the process of justice.
The crime scene examiner works with the human rights officer in the field and with the relatives of the victim. Human rights officers help the crime scene examiner by explaining to families what is involved in an exhumation and why it is necessary. They also support and prepare the families for the return of the bodies once the medical examination is finished. If individuals are aware of particular grave sites, it is best to leave them undisturbed until the arrival of the crime scene examiner. The recovery and examination of a body can help the crime scene examiner confirm a person's identity and piece together the timing and events that led to that person's death. At the grave site, the examiner will document the scene for the court. The court is shown photographs, measurements, sketches, and detailed notes taken at the scene. All evidence recovered during the examination, including the remains, is returned to the Serious Crimes Unit in Dili for further examination.
We want fair justice. He who has done wrong should be punished. Sometimes they say reconciliation, but what is reconciliation? We are happy and agree with the process of exhumation. By digging up the dead body, we can conduct an autopsy and know how my husband died.
It is not only the living who provide essential evidence for a case. Deceased tell their own stories.
We need to talk about autopsy because most East Timorese people don't understand about autopsy. We need to know why someone has died. We need to know if it was murder, sickness, or natural disaster, or if it was caused by something else. Murder is seen as a criminal matter. It is necessary and very important for us to send this to the tribunal. Aside from that, after we conduct an autopsy, we must remember the East Timorese culture when dealing with death. Even though we are working closely with Western people, we must still consider the East Timorese culture in the autopsy process before we return the dead body to the family.
Once in the mortuary, the bones are examined. In most cases, the forensic doctors can establish gender, age, height, and build. In some cases, they are able to determine how the person died. Once the bones have been examined, they are carefully placed in an appropriate coffin and await reburial. Sometimes the family would prefer to collect the deceased themselves, or in some cases, the unit may assist in the return of the deceased, especially in remote or inaccessible areas. A relative will sign for the return of the remains and await the process of justice to take its course.
Who did this to Carlito or in Dili prison or in West Timor. We don't know whether they will come back or not, but we pray to God that they will come back one day to East Timor so they can face justice. For the suspects, when they come back to East Timor, they have to be responsible for their mistakes and face the tribunal to give justice to the victims.
¿Qué tal?